Hello and welcome to the RotD Deep Dive spoiler-filled discussion on Winchester. Now, I'm going to discuss the movie itself for just a little bit, and then I want to kind of get into a few more of the more general thematic issues of where this fell down and how it could have done things better. The drug use of the doctor, I can see how that could be important for the character. However, my issue with that is that it muddled the sense of perspective in a movie that was not really needing any more muddling. You know what? I'm going to switch things around. I have some bullet points here and I want to hit them, but I think I'm going to change the order of them. So I am going to discuss some thematic issues. Haunted house movies in general. Before a single person shows up on the screen, you already have what should be your main character, and that is the house. It's not just a setting, it is a character. It is living, it is breathing, and if you're not selling it as that, you are failing. As a filmmaker, your haunted house movie should have your main character as the house. You need to give it a personality. You need to give it life. You need to give it a mood. Preferably a mood that you can't anticipate, so you never know exactly, at any given moment, which version of the house you're going to get. RotD did this really well, and considering it was based on the Winchester storyline, the RotD took it one step further. It was Stephen King's foray into a haunted house story. He took the concept of a widower that was constantly building onto the house, and he took it further in that when she died, the house continued doing so. And that was a lot of fun. The house itself was a living, breathing entity. You had the spirits that were going through there and they were conspiring. You had the rooms that would change. You had the characters interacting with that change. You had them walking down the hallways with ropes, leading back to where they started, and then when they backtrack, they go follow the rope, and it's sticking out of a fresh wall that was just put back. So it's messing with them, and so I mean it's not man versus self or man versus nature. It's man versus man, insofar as the house is a character. It is messing with the other characters, and it is doing so purposefully. Was that supposed to be the kind of house for Winchester? Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily insofar as changing itself on a whim for the sake of messing with the other characters. This was a bit more grounded than that. It had more to do with the spirits that were in there. However, you had a house that was odd, purposefully odd. You had spirits within, and you had an element where the house was very maze-like. And if you took a wrong, the hallways didn't make sense. There was no master plan. Angles went nowhere, and that could have worked so much better in service of the movie. So when I was talking about the character's drug addiction that was muddling things that didn't need to be muddled, what I'm talking about there is you already have the house, which should have been more interesting, which should have been more of a character, and that should have been more along the lines of what was messing with the psychiatrist's head. And when you introduce the drug addiction, then you are muddling your audience's perspective of what's going on. And when we're already trying to determine what is real, what isn't, what is spiritual, now you're introducing an element of what is he imagining in his head. And I just feel like it was an unnecessary element that stripped away our interest from what was potentially happening in the house. And I feel that things could have been better revealed if, say, instead of him having the drug addiction, him just simply being in mourning and therefore, in a bit of a dour mood and kind of dismissing some of the things he saw. or even having a perspective veil over his eyes that was just kind of slowly lifting as the movie went. Not necessarily related to drug use and hallucinations. I don't know. Just kind of spitballing on that one. But it really does feel like the house was put on a back burner, and the character's poison addiction was just a bit unnecessary. And that's ultimately what I mean there too, is with what is the movie even supposed to be about? And that's what I was getting at with it feeling muddled. Was it supposed to be about the house? I don't know. If it was, it didn't really showcase it to the way that, to the degree that I feel it should have. Was it about Mrs. Winchester? It didn't really expand on that character to a great deal, to a great degree. Was it about Dr. Eric Price? It was trying to be all three, or was it about the malevolent spirit? So it was trying to be all four, and by trying to be all of these things, it kind of wound up being so-so on every single one of them and coming together in not a cohesive fashion. Instead of having a storyline that was equally focused on the house and on Mrs. Winchester and on Dr. Eric Price and on the malevolent spirit, ultimately what I think they should have done is instead focus on the house, make that front and center, the main character, the main setting, the main part of the storyline, and then have the other pieces in play in service of that. That's just my opinion on it, and I think that it could have been more interesting and worked better with that. So what I'd like at this point is to hear from you, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, whether you find that I am way off base. I would love to hear from you, so please leave comments below, and I thank you for making me a part of your day.